I mentioned coming in from the break that last night David Sirota, who does a morning show here on the Denver station and is a nationally syndicated columnist, progressive, and I debated the other eight right-wing talk show hosts who live in this city and do talk radio. And the audience was probably 75, 80% conservative because, they had so many conservative talk show hosts encouraging people to buy tickets. Mm-hmm. And it was standing room only. It was packed. And the issue trade came up, and I said, from 1783, when George Washington Congress adopted Alexander Hamilton's 1781 Report on Manufactures, until really the 80s and in larger part the 90s with NAFTA and GATT, but it really started you could argue that Nixon started it, but it really started in the 80s. We had a trade policy in this country for over 200 years that protected American workers, protected American jobs, and you can call it protectionist if you want, but that's what it did. It protected American workers and American jobs, and I think the question was, how are you going to solve the economic crisis? And I said, when FDR with the WPA and the CCC put money in workers' pockets, they bought, shirts that were made in American shirt factories that then those wages went to Americans who then bought tools made in American tool factories who then went to, and on it goes. But now when we stimulate the economy by putting people to work, it goes through their pockets until it hits a Walmart, which might be just one or two people down the road, or not necessarily even a Walmart, but any other store, and boom, it goes off to some other country. Right. And thus, stimulus isn't nowhere near as effective as it was in the 30s. And I said, we need to go back to the trade policies that we had in this country for over 200 years that made this nation a great industrial power. And what's amazing is that I don't think anybody in the audience booed. I mean, and this was 3/4 conservatives, 1/4 progressives, and they were all unanimously cheering this statement. Yeah. I believe that the first party that picks up basically Ross Perot's mantle is going to start winning elections and never again lose them. What can we do to make that the Democratic Party? Because I'm concerned that the Republicans are onto this.
Well, let me tell you that 67% of Democratic members voted against the Korea Free Trade Agreement yesterday, and that was up from members that voted against NAFTA. I think the majority, by 2/3 of Democrats understand that the trade policy we've been pursuing is really harming American workers, small businesses, and manufacturing, and that we are not going to stay a global competitor in the economy if we don't do something to stop the manufacturing jobs that are hemorrhaging from this country. A while ago, a couple of decades ago, there became this quaint notion that somehow we didn't need to make things in this country because, it's dirty, gritty work, right? Well, it also happens to be fairly well-paid work because it's skilled labor. Yep. And the belief was that we were going to become, the white-collar workers of the world. Well, we've seen, where that policy has gotten us.
Right. Would you like fries with that?
Exactly. Would you like fries with that? And, call centers, at barely above minimum wage, which those then got shipped overseas. Yeah. And, people wonder, for instance, with the Colombia trade agreement, why should we care what worker conditions are like in Colombia? Why should we care that there's all this murder of people who try to organize and try to stand up and, defend themselves and negotiate with their employers for decent wages? Well, the reason we should care is because when those conditions exist there and we sign a trade agreement with a country like that, where do you think U.S. businesses move because the labor is so much cheaper? They move their operations to Colombia because you can pay workers basically slave wages or subsistence wages, which means now you put a bunch of Americans out of work because you can produce it more cheaply in Colombia.
Right, and if they unionize, they get shot.
They get shot or disappeared. And one thing that, in this pursuit of, these trade agreements that are so fundamentally flawed, one of the things they keep saying is, well, this trade will bring lower cost to consumers in the United States. We are a consumer society. We consume far more than we, produce and export to other countries in the world. But I keep telling people this, look, what does it matter if toothpaste is 25 cents cheaper per tube if you don't have a job and you can't buy it anyway?
Yep. Yeah, I would much rather pay 10% more for everything at Walmart if my paycheck was 30% fatter.
Right, but they keep saying, oh, well, it leads to lower costs for consumers. But the fact is, if we lose those jobs and they don't come back, we've got bigger problems on our hands. And, there is no manufacturing strategy in this country. And these trade agreements are just going to continue to skewer our trade deficits and make them worse.
We need a national manufacturing policy again, like we had up until the 80s. Congresswoman Linda Sanchez, thanks so much for the great work you're doing.
My pleasure. Thanks again for
You're
getting the
listening
word
to the
out.
Thom Hartmann Program.